Hello everyone, I'm Miss Lisa, and welcome back to Kids Day. We run Kids Day on the last Saturday of the month, and it is the last Saturday of the month today. So happy January and happy 2021. We have been providing virtual travels for Kids Day since March, and today we are continuing our Art Around the World series, and we are going to be visiting Poland. So let's see where Poland is. Here we are. Here's California. Here's the United States of America. And we are going to be going to Poland. Poland is in Europe. Here's Europe. This country here is Poland. And we are going to be talking about Polish art called Wycinanki. And this is how it's written. And I put the phonetic pronunciation underneath. Hopefully it's something close to this, Wycinanki. And this art form is very popular in Poland. It began a couple hundred years ago with shepherds out in the fields, and they had shearing scissors to shear the wool of sheep, and they started carving or cutting little patterns into tree bark and leather, and eventually this caught on and people started cutting patterns into paper, and then these patterns became very popular, and people would make these for decorating the inside of their cottages, maybe used as almost like wallpaper, or they would give them as gifts. And so if you go to Poland and you talk about Wycinanki, you will be seeing examples of paper cutting. And I just did some examples to show you. We can make them quite intricate. There are a couple that are, the cuts are very fine. They're very small, and when I say fine, I mean they're very small and detailed. This one is like that goes with that one. This is like an abstract tree almost. So you can see that you can make the pattern symmetrical. This side is like that side. And these are also symmetrical top to bottom. And that's because of the way you fold the paper before you start. So let's talk about what we need to do this. We need paper. We need scissors. And let's go back to the paper. Let's start with the square paper. We're going to be using squares today. And when I say square paper, you might remember that Miss Lisa likes to do origami. And so I have quite a lot of square paper at home, and I do like to use these papers. I'll be using them today. You can also use Post-it notes, because look at the shape of a Post-it note. Square, right? The only difference is that Post-it notes have a gluey edge, so you may find that when you fold your paper and then unfold it, you have to very gently pull the sides apart. But they're very good for practice, and I'll show you that in a minute. You also need some scissors, and these are regular scissors. I also have these very sharp scissors that are very good for snipping straight edges. I would use these scissors to cut wavy lines or curves, and these are very good for straight lines and angles. You also might want a bowl to collect all of the little bits that go flying off of your Wycinanki when you start cutting the paper. Okay, so I was talking about folding, and we want to fold our first, we're going to do a practice on a simple piece of paper. We're going to use a Post-it note because it's square. And when you fold the paper in half, it doesn't matter which way you fold it, whether you fold it that way or this way, you're going to end up with something that you can open up like a book, right? You can open this up again like a book. And I'll put it here so that you can see it better against the black. So closed and opened. We're going to close it, and we're going to cut from, this is called the folded edge because we fold the paper in half, and you can see that we fold along this edge. So this is called the fold. We're going to fold, and then we want to start cutting with the scissors. We want to start on the fold, so somewhere along this fold line, and we're going to cut into the paper and maybe come down and either end on the fold or maybe down here. But what happens when we cut along the fold, or if we start at the fold and cut outwards, let's just cut a random shape. When I open this up, I will have something that's twice as big, and it's going to be symmetrical along that fold line. Have to very gently open it up. So you can see it's twice as big as the shape that we saw before because it's opened up and it has a line of symmetry that runs right along that fold line. Now what happens if I did the same thing but I didn't start at the folded edge? Let's take a look. And if you try this a few times, you'll see exactly what I mean. So I'm going to try to do something similar, but I'm going to start at the edge that's open. So this is the open edge. And I'm going to draw, I'm going to try to cut a similar shape. And now when I open it up, what do you think is going to happen? To peel it open, but look what happens. I get two halves because the fold line was not in between. So this one I've got one shape with a line of symmetry, and this one I've got two shapes. So we always want to use the fold line. This isn't going to work for what we're doing. And if we use the fold line, we can cut some pretty interesting shapes, like this one, for example. These two birds, because you can see that was the fold line. And so you can cut in and around, and then leave a tiny bit together here at the beak, and leave a little stretch here at the bottom of the neck, so that when we open it up, the beak is attached and the neck is attached. But now we've got two birds. So you can imagine how we can use this technique to produce some pretty interesting cutouts. So we're just going to lay these fancier cuts aside for a minute, and let's take a look at this one. So this is kind of an abstract tree. I was cutting a shape that kind of looks like a tree. I took my piece of paper and folded it in half, and then I cut a wavy but intricate line that went around, and I left enough here for the trunk, and then I cut out some shapes in the middle, but I left the fold line intact, and then I cut little snips into the fold line to get this. And so let's try that together. Go ahead and grab a piece of paper, a square piece of paper, and fold it in half. I'll do it here so that you can see it. A good contrast between the white paper and the dark paper. So we want to fold it in half, And remember where it opens up. Remember which side is your fold line. This side is the fold line because it opens up like a book. And this side is not attached. This is the fold. And let's close this one up and see what kind of shape I had cut out. So I started with a wavy line and I came in and out a couple times and I went up like that and down like this. A little thing there and out. So let me try something similar. It's obviously not going to be exactly the same because I'm not drawing on my paper. Now when you cut your papers, remember that you want to start at the fold. And when I cut paper, I use my scissor hands are just going open, close, open, close, open, close, like this. So open, close, open, close, open, close. And this hand is turning the paper. So one hand goes open, close, and the other hand turns the paper. Now I'm going to make a couple pieces of grass here by going in and out. And if you want to draw this on your paper, that's fine too. You can draw a pattern and then try cutting it out. But remember to fold your paper first, start on the fold, and then cut around. And this time I ended up out here, and I've got sort of a tree shape and some grass on either side of the tree. These patterns turn out very symmetrical because of the way you start. You're starting with a line of symmetry and cutting the same thing basically into both halves. So you're going to end up with a symmetrical pattern. I'm going to close it up again and I'm going to add some more curvy lines in here. Maybe I'll do something like this. And then like I said, the scissors are good for making all sorts of curvy lines. Let's try something like that and maybe make some really wiggly things here. And maybe a little triangle. Another thing I could have done if I had my hole puncher is I could have snipped holes into this and make it look like there were little apples on the tree. And I'm going to add some more snips like this. Now notice how I've just used my scissors to make two straight lines. And same here, I used my scissors to make two straight lines. When I use the scissors to make straight lines, I might change to this tool. This is very good for making straight lines. I'll show you, it's very sharp, and so I want to be very careful. Pay attention to where my hand is that's holding the paper. And this tool works very, very well on the next thing that I'm going to show you, which is an intricate design. So this one is not quite as fancy as the next one I'm going to show you. So now I've got something that looks like this, and we can actually cut even more designs into this design. Maybe I want to make the edges a little bit spiky, or maybe I would want to add some little snips here. Let's put a couple snips here. And maybe we can go inside this triangle shape and snip too. And we can go maybe some snips around the edge here. So that's what this one would look like. And I could glue that down on a darker piece of paper like this one so that the pattern shows up really well. Okay, now what I want to do is show you what a fancy one looks like and how we might go about doing that. So first of all, I'm going to move these guys to the side. Let's put them on red paper and move them to the side so that we can have this area for doing our fancy one. So this time I'm going to fold my paper on the diagonal. I'm going to fold corner to corner. And I'm going to take this corner and fold it up there. And every time I do these folds, I'm being very careful to make them exact. I'm going to fold this one up to that corner, being very careful to get a good match and a straight crease, like this. So what I've actually done is folded this over once on the diagonal, twice, and 3 times. And let's see what we've got. We've got this side that has all of the individual sheets showing. So the paper, you can see all the different edges. And we have this edge, which is a folded edge. And we have this edge that is a folded edge made up of smaller folded edges. Okay, so I consider this a folded edge, and this a folded edge, and this not a folded edge, because these are all 8 pieces of paper. You could see, you could count each edge if you wanted to. So this side, I'm going to make it a little bit fancier. It's straight across now, but I want to make it kind of a wavy line. So this edge, I'm going to turn into a wavy line. That means I'm going to be using curved lines, which means I need my scissors. And you can draw a curved line if you want, or you can just think about what it might look like. I'm going to make mine kind of wavy, so some curves stuck together would make a wavy line. So it looks like this now, nice wavy line. And then I'm going to start cutting a few curves and waves from this side and from this side. But I don't want it to go all the way across the paper like this one, because then that whole piece would fall off, right? So I'm going to cut in a little bit, like this. And that little crescent shape should fall out. And then I'm going to cut in from this side, maybe like this. And another crescent shape should fall out. And then I'm going to cut in from this side again. Maybe I'll do kind of a wavy line, but not all the way across, like this. And maybe I'll do something from this side as well. Maybe I'll cut a little shape, like half of a circle. All right, now I'm going to take my other cutting tool, And I'm going to be cutting in some shapes and lines along the edges to make it fancy. And this one works by squeezing shut. It pops back open, very sharp. If you are a small child and you are doing scissors for the first time, please have your mother, dad, or older sibling around to help you out. And if you have, always remember that the hand that's holding the paper can potentially be cut by your scissors. So always think about where that hand is. I'm going to make a bit of a mess here because last time I tried collecting all of these bits while I was filming and I couldn't keep my cuts where you could see them. So I'm just going to make a mess this time and clean up afterwards. So you see when I cut these, they just start flying everywhere. And I'm going to make some of them facing one direction and some of them facing another direction. And I can go inside this curved line and make some snips too. You can do this with scissors. It's going to take you a little while, but that's okay. Work slowly so that you don't hurt yourself. Sometimes when they don't come out, it just means you have to cut them a little bit further, and I'll do that with scissors. So some of these need to come out because they weren't cut all the way. And let's do some around here. So to get inside this one, I'm going underneath and seeing if I can get my cutting tool in there. Sometimes you have to turn the paper over to see where the bit is that needs to be cut out. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I think we can stop at that. So now the fun part is opening it up and seeing what we have. Just clean up a couple more of these spots here. There's some there that didn't come out. When you open them up, you have to be really careful because the papers stick together from the cutting. The edges kind of stick together. So open them up carefully. If you've ever tried to separate paper doilies, it's the same thing. The edges of the pattern kind of stick together. You have to open them very carefully. So let's see what we've got. I love this origami paper because it has two different colors, one on each side. Usually they have white on one side and color on the other side, but this one has yellow on one side and sort of a burnt sienna on the other side. So you can decide which way you like to display your Wycinanki. Do you want it this side or that side? I kind of like this side because it's a big contrast with the dark behind it and the light yellow on top. So I think for this one, I would glue it here. I just want to show you how to glue these because you don't want to use too much glue. You need much less than you think. You're just going to make little spots of glue like this. Can you see that? And we're just going to work over our pattern with little spots of glue. Not a lot. It's very easy to use too much, and then it will be squishing out all over your paper and you'll be very frustrated. So we're just going to put little dots of glue here and there, like this. Here's my paper, here's my little dots of glue, and now I'm going to put this down on my dark background, and I'm going to press it gently. Pull that little bit of paper off there. And there's our pattern. Now, as you can imagine, this technique would make great snowflakes, right? The only difference is we would want to start with a hexagon instead of a square so that we would get a nice 6-pointed snowflake. And I hope I'll have time in December to do a class where I can actually show you how to cut the most beautiful snowflakes you've ever made out of paper. Nice, beautiful, 6-sided, 6-pointed snowflakes. Until then, remember to wash your hands well, remember to wear your mask when you go outside, and remember to socially distance, and also enjoy your art. Have a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed Wycinanki, getting to know this, and I will see you next month at the end of February for another Kids' Day. I wonder where we'll go next time. We'll see. Wait and see. So I'll see you at the end of February. Take care. Goodbye.